becoming the Ambani who went to jail for fraud and cheating.
This is The Last Word. Hello everyone, and I'm Maria Shakil. We begin with the horrifying visuals from Uttarakhand. A devastating cloudburst has left villages submerged. Hotels swept away. Cars tossed like toys, and lives upended in seconds. A stark reminder of nature's fury and our fragile preparedness. At 9:30 p.m., a diplomatic flashpoint. India hits back at Donald Trump's tariff tirade. In a sharply worded response, New Delhi has called the move unjustified and unreasonable and has vowed to take all necessary steps to protect national interest. First up, our top story. Another cloudburst, another Himalayan village devastated. In Dharali, homes were swallowed by a surging stream within minutes. No time to run, no warning to act. This isn't just nature's fury. It's a warning siren we keep ignoring. First up the story, then I bring in the guests. Nature's fury in full force. Death and devastation in Devbhoomi. A village washed away. Houses crumble in the face of raging waters. Screams and shouts of people running to save life. As a cloudburst triggered devastating flash floods in Dharali village in Uttarakhand district of Uttarakhand, multiple videos captured the scale and horror of the tragedy. This video shows the gushing water in full force, destroying everything in its way. Houses to cars to trees. Scared people scrambling to escape the advancing fury. Another video showed the sudden gush of water from the heights onto the unsuspecting village, sweeping all in the way with full force. An eyewitness documented the aftermath of nature's fury. Houses, cars, everything buried under the slush left behind by the flash floods. This video shows a man trying to navigate his way through the slush, falling in the effort. The cloudburst took place in the catchment area of the Kheer Ganga river, leading to the devastation of Dharali village in Uttarakhand. The area is just 4 kilometers from the Harshil army camp, which was also washed away. The mammoth tragedy overwhelmed the region and triggered an emergency multi-agency response.
सेना के लोग और आपदा प्रबंधन विभाग और NDRF, SDRF सभी काम कर रहे हैं। आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी लगातार हर संभव सहायता के लिए वहाँ पर NDTV की कंपनियां और कंपनियों को भेजा है। बचाव के काम के लिए थोड़ा सा कठिन स्थान है वो, क्योंकि वहाँ पर बारिश भी हो रही है और इस समय वहाँ थोड़ा कोहरा भी लगा हुआ है।
Teams of Army, NDRF, SDRF were rushed to the affected areas for rescue operation. A bridge leading to the affected also came down, snapping the connectivity, and weather hampered the relief operations.
पुलिया भी वहाँ से बह गई है, तो उसके लिए हम लोग अभी BRO से भी और ENC इंजीनियर इन चीफ हमारे PWD के हमारे साथ हैं। मौसम भी अभी इस ऐसी स्थिति नहीं है जिससे कि हम लोग हेली सर्विसेज को वहाँ के माध्यम से वहाँ पे राहत और रेस्क्यू कर सके।
Prime Minister Modi expressed condolences and assured that relief and rescue operations were being carried out under the supervision of the state government. Home Minister Amit Shah also dialed the Chief Minister to take stock of the relief.
कि नदियों के किनारे जो लोग घर बना लेते हैं, उनका इंक्रोचमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा कर देते हैं, तो ऐसे में ये जो नुकसान होता है इस तरीके का बहुत ज़्यादा होता है। पर अभी किसी को पता नहीं है कि वो किस वजह से वहाँ पर फ्लड आया था। यही वजह है कि उस पूरे इलाके को खाली कराकर उनको सुरक्षित स्थानों पर लाया जाएगा।
Uttarakhand has been witnessing heavy continuous rainfall this season, with major rivers including the Ganga and Haridwar remaining in spate. NDTV Bureau Report.
इस वक्त NDTV की टीम उत्तरकाशी के उस जगह पर जा रही है जहां पर एक बादल फटने की वजह से काफ़ी बड़ा नुकसान हुआ है। आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर ये लैंडस्लाइड हुआ है और मैं यहाँ पर क्योंकि काफ़ी अंधेरा है और अंधेरे की वजह से ये काफ़ी बड़ा लैंडस्लाइड हुआ और काफ़ी सारी यहाँ पर दिक्कतें हैं और इसी तरीके से कई जगहों पर छोटे बड़े लैंडस्लाइड हुए हैं, रास्ता नहीं है और आगे भी पत्थर गिरने की आवाज़ आ रही है। तो ऐसे ही हमें आगे की तरफ जाना है और लगातार अभी भी पत्थर गिरने की आवाज़ आ रही है और पूरा रास्ता ब्लॉक है और अभी भी अगर मैं देखूँ तो थोड़ा सा ऊपर पत्थर गिर रहे हैं, तो ये पूरा रास्ता ब्लॉक हो गया है और लगातार इसी तरीके से आगे को हम उस जगह पे जा रहे हैं जहाँ पर एक बड़ा हादसा हुआ है उत्तरकाशी के धराली गाँव में।
Let me bring in Sunita Narayan, environmentalist and director of Center for Science and Environment. Ma'am, thank you for speaking to NDTV. What exactly do you think triggered this cloudburst in Dharali village, and how common are such extreme weather events in this part of Uttarakhand, particularly during this time of the year?
So, Maria, it's very much like what your reporter and what you said. This is the revenge of nature. And let's be very clear that there are two things happening together. There is you cannot say why this one cloudburst. There are two trends that are happening. One, we are seeing more extreme weather events across the country, and it is particularly damaging in the more vulnerable ecosystem-wise regions like the Himalayas. I will give you some numbers that will explain this to you. According to the IMD data itself, in these last 2 months, 61 days, we've had in Uttarakhand as many as 22 extreme weather events. Now, this is still incomplete data because last year, in that same period, they were as many as over 39 events. So you're talking about literally an event every second day or every third day. This is extreme weather as classified by the Indian Meteorological Department. Very heavy rain, cloudbursts. So you are seeing an intensification of the frequency of intense extreme weather events. That's because of climate change. But that is combined with the fact that we are mismanaging our own development in the Himalayas. We are building houses where they should not be built. We are making dams in ways that will add to the fury of the cloudburst. We are making roads in places and in ways in which we will exacerbate the landslides in the Himalayas. Remember, the Himalayas are the world's youngest mountain range. They are ecologically fragile. And so now you have a double, triple whammy. On one hand, you have bad development, unthought through development. As I keep saying, you're building in the Himalayas as you should not even build in Greater Kailash of South Delhi. It is in the same way that we are doing mindless development. And on the other hand, you have the fury of nature with climate change. That is what is making this region so tragic and so sad to see the loss of human lives and property.
Ms. Narayan, given the rising frequency of these events, do you think the Himalayas outpace the state's preparedness and adaptation efforts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what is the adaptation efforts, Maria? I mean, every time we talk about this, we talk about in this time of the season when, it's a season of despair. And we talk about it, we lament, we say, oh, look, the cloudburst, look how many people died. Himachal last week was really bad, this year. So we do that. This is the season of despair. And then we forget about it. We continue doing the development that we've always done. There are no master plans in the cities in the Himalayas. There is no prohibition where you cannot build houses. Nothing is enforced. Everything is allowed in the name of development. But this development, which we have to understand that we are not are more superior to nature. And what nature is telling us that its revenge is absolute. When you see these images on your screen today and you see the way this one landslide, because of the cloudburst, has just swept away an entire town, we have to understand this is the scale of what we are going to face more and more of. And we have to get serious about what we mean by building in the Himalayas, keeping in mind that it is an ecologically fragile area. Everything we have right now is lip service, and only that also in the few months when, as I call it, the season of despair.
Before I let you go, are we to believe then that there is no long-term climate resilient strategy in Uttarakhand or this entire Himalayan region, ma'am, which can ensure some kind of balance between development and ecology?
See, Maria, this is difficult issues. There are no simple answers to this. It's not possible. Look at the scale of the devastation you're seeing. But we need to start a strategy today. We cannot keep talking about it and then hoping that next season will not be so bad. Each year has got worse and worse and worse. Our data shows, the government data shows how cloudbursts are increasing, extreme weather events are increasing, how roads are getting destroyed. This is the loss of development dividend. Look at the investment that governments put into rebuilding property, into rebuilding infrastructure, and it is lost. We need a strategy, and it is not easy. Let me make no bones about it. You'll need to understand, firstly, what is the carrying capacity in these regions. Then you will have to understand how do you do development in a way, because you need development. You do need roads. You need connectivity. You need housing. But how do you do that, keeping in mind that you will have to build understanding the vulnerability of the Himalayas? Those are the big, tough questions in front of these governments. And they are tough. Let's not make light of it. But unless we confront the reality of a changing climate, which is exacerbating the maldevelopment that we are seeing in the Himalayas, we will never get serious about learning to cope, learning to deal with it. I'm not sure if we can ever deal with it completely, because nature's revenge is now becoming more and more extreme. But we will have to learn to try and reduce the pain that of the loss of property and lives that we are seeing now each year in these regions.
All right, Sunita Narayan, I appreciate your time. Joining me now on the show is Air Vice Marshal G.P. Sharma. He is the president of SkyMet Weather. We have Dr. K.J. Ramesh, a former DG of IMD. Bharti Chaturvedi is an environmentalist. We also have Navya Singh, climate action journalist. Vice Marshal Sharma, could this cloudburst have been predicted or detected earlier? Is the current meteorological infrastructure in the Himalayan region adequate for early warnings?
Maria, first of all, you said, can it be predicted? Very difficult. Okay, what is cloudburst? Cloudburst is an enormous amount of rain, very intense rain, heavy to very heavy rains, large quantum of rain in a very small period of time. Okay, as we know, mountains and the water bodies, they become very, very vulnerable during the monsoon season. Okay, it's nothing new. The natural calamities, whatever it is, be it the floods, be it the cloudburst, be it the lightning strikes, be it GLOF, that's a glacial lake outburst, be it any of these natural disasters, the frequency of that increases. Now you said, can it be predicted? What we can predict is that the situation is favorable for heavy to very heavy rain, and we are in that situation now, in that phase of the monsoon, wherein heavy to very heavy rains are predicted for this particular zone, that is for Uttarakhand, even western parts of Uttar Pradesh foothills. Okay, the SkyMet has we had written about it. That's a yesterday, that's a today, in the morning itself. Because the situation, we call it in simple terms, we call it as a break-in monsoon condition. Though it sounds differently, break-in monsoon means monsoon doesn't relax for the mountains. It actually speeds up its fury. Okay, and that's what is happening. If now coming to the second part, do we have enough to forecast these particular things? You see, the mountainous terrain is very, very deceptive. It is very tricky. It is very, very difficult to map the terrain and have that infrastructure to map each and every meter of that mountainous terrain. There is sufficient. The National Weather Agency, they have put up the weather radars also in that area. But then it has got its own limitations. Mountainous terrain cannot be read that easily. It happens. It is not the first time that we are having this calamity.
That's
we
why
had
I'm
it
saying
here also.
That's why I'm saying, sir, that can this be predicted? At least some kind of early warnings be read, or are we just doomed to face it year after year? This kind of cloudburst is my question to Dr. Ramesh.
Yes,
Should
please.
we
Thank
continue
you.
to just see these kind of repeated instances of cloudbursts in Uttarakhand? Are we looking at a pattern linked to climate change, or is it poor land and forest management that's worsening this impact?
All those maldevelopment with Sunita ji has told, they are there. But in the background of intensity and frequency increase of extreme weather events and heavy rainfall events, short duration heavy rainfall events are the main cause of these catastrophic local scale catastrophes. But we have something operational already called flash flood guidance system. So this Uttarakhand flash floods, potential flash flood risk has been updated since yesterday afternoon for every 6 hours till today morning. Apart from IMD gives bulletin to state government, flash flood guidance bulletin, potential flash floods, and the CWC also puts it these warnings as a part of their daily bulletin during the monsoon season. So this information is there, but to organize a response and rescue and safe relief routing of the people affected is the challenge. So it was a warning issue. Now there is a flash flood guidance system operated that has identified, warned about this, but taking action, early action is a challenge.
Okay. Come in now, Bharti. Several houses washed away in minutes. If you look at those visuals, very dramatic, very, very worrying. Does this actually expose major gaps in construction norms and habitation planning in this fragile ecological zones?
Well, first of all, the Himalayas are the youngest mountain ranges, very, very fragile. And I think it goes beyond construction norms. I think there are three big things that are staring at us in the face. One is the limits to tourism, because a lot of these things are essentially people's livelihoods. You know, whether they're little hotels or little dhabas or informal, whatever they were, all of them, we saw them go down. And so I think the first thing is really we might have to look at and emulate other countries that actually limit tourism and charge, assess, so that you don't have this kind of out of control stuff happening. The other thing is there's a whole movement of people from cities then acquiring a second home, which is good, but then you can't live in the same way that is so damaging. You can't live, you know, in Mumbai or in Delhi or in Rajasthan the same way that you live in the Himalayas, because it's very differently fragile. I think the third thing that we're really looking at is that we just don't have a system, even as the previous speaker said about, early warning reach there, but what's the reaction? So I don't think it's basically internalized that you can basically get killed if you're not going to listen to a warning system, and you need that protocol ready. I think that's the preparation has to be completely different. And of course, planning, has to be completely differently imagined. You just cannot, everybody just cannot do what they like in these places, because then everybody is damaged.
Okay, so Navya, I want to understand from you, as someone who covers climate and the challenges that we are facing. What are the standard operating procedures during a cloudburst in a remote hill village? And did the response in Dharali village actually meet those benchmarks?
I think, Maria, in this case, it's not really possible for the authorities to really take care of any sort of measures, any sort of precautionary measures that we're talking about, because this was sudden. And as as the previous speakers also mentioned, that we don't really have a fixed warning system. We can't really alert the people, and even the chilling visuals that we see on social media and everywhere that's doing the rounds, we see people running for their lives because they were actually not expecting something so big to really wash away their homes, their livelihoods, families, everything all at once. So I feel there are protocols when we look at displacing people only if we have a warning, right? If we know something like this is coming, we try to displace people, at least people who are living close to these water bodies, we try to take them to safer areas. But none of that could have been possible given how many houses are there in those areas, as the visuals clearly show, and how many people were actually living there. So even when we talk about warnings, I think all the destruction that we've caused all of these years were warnings for us to really understand that this was coming. I don't think we should be surprised in any way to look at these visuals. They are terrifying and devastating to look at. But every little village in Uttarakhand or any area in the Himalayan region that has faced floods or landslides or anything big or small, that just reminds us that we've crossed a line.
Okay, so then Air Vice Marshal Sharma, what immediate steps should the Uttarakhand government and NDRF take to secure lives? Because of course, the number of casualty figures are still trickling in, and the loss of lives. What should be done right now in areas like Dharali that have been also cut off, which are also visibly also severely damaged?
Maria, it's a very, very challenging thing. To carry out the relief and rescue operation under these circumstances, it's a big challenge. You see, the location and the timings of this disaster, they are very, very important things. Anything of this nature, now, after the sunset, when it is dark, you cannot carry out relief operations that effectively. Okay, air operations, you can forget about that. And as far as the weather conditions are concerned, I'm afraid it's not going to relent. It's going to worsen also. Okay, at least today, say for the next about 24 hours. Why 24 hours? Even tomorrow also, because the hilly terrains and all, they keep responding. The water bodies, the slopes, the mountain slopes, they are already saturated. This monsoon has been very, very active. So what the state government can do is, you see, prior to the thing, we know the monsoon season can bring in such events. So preparation is what is needed. We cannot control, we cannot eliminate these events, the disastrous events, but the only thing is how can we mitigate, how fast we can take the relief operations, rescue operations. Like in this case, I think very quickly the army camp was nearby, the people reached, even NDRF team reached, because it were positioned not very far from the site. So this is what the preparation is required. Otherwise, controlling that has to be a policy, planning has to be there, ecological balance has to be maintained, unplanned construction has to be stopped. At this moment, what we say is now that area must be full of mud and slush, and it's very difficult to reach that area. We have to wait possibly for the daylight for extensive operations. Okay. Marginally, we can now also do it in the night, whatever possible, but the air operations, the time is very premium. If the people are buried under the slush or under the mud or whatever it is, we have a fear of losing those lives very quickly. Okay. So the operations, possibly we will have to wait also. Extensive operation tomorrow morning. As I said, it has to be a combined effort. State government also, Army, Air Force, all together, possibly we can bring some rescue and relief. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Dr. Ramesh, a word from you, and then I'll give the last word to Bharti on the show tonight. The question that I asked Air Vice Marshal Sharma, can this be predicted? Can there be a preparations? Can there be some kind, like we know in case of cyclones, we can move people to a certain location away from the eye of the cyclone or the entire radius in which a cyclone can strike. Can a certain preparation be made in case of a cloudburst?
It's possible. Cyclone also, if you remember clearly, we have a safe evacuation route for most of the cyclone vulnerable villages. All-weather roads, culverts, bridges, at least two evacuation routes are there for an emergency. So the similar thing, safe evacuation alternative routes for each of the habitations or cluster of the habitations has to be planned. So now the warning system is there and the soil is saturated, as Sharmaji told. For season, so much of rain is happening continuously. Deforestation has made the slopes unstable. So this slush flow and mud flow is bound to happen where unstable slopes are there. So around the river channels, we should avoid the habitations to develop at least from now on, and then work out for establishing and creating safe evacuation routes for the habitations. Then only something is possible. And regulating the tourism, regulating the crowd movement of the people, particularly during the monsoon season, got to be very, very strictly adhered to, so that carrying capacity of the hills is very low.
Okay. Bharti, let me ask you the last question on the show tonight. How can we really build a long-term climate resilience strategy for Uttarakhand that balances development and ecology? Is there a political will also for doing so?
You know, that's a complex question, and I don't think it's in my capacity even to respond to that. But I think there are a couple of very brief thoughts. Firstly, I think our imagination about what is development does have a huge health and environmental cost, and we really need to rethink this globally. But specifically for Uttaranchal, I think we really have to think about what is it how would the people of Uttaranchal, various kinds of people, particularly women, from a place that taught us how to protect trees and forests, has come to a place where it's at the mercy of very external decisions on local resources and local planning and extraction and development. So I really feel that we have to really talk to people who bear that brunt. And I think we don't really have to open out every place with the last possible road and expect lavish lifestyles and so on and so forth. So I'll put it there. I think change in imagination, and let's talk to people who live there. Many of them have aspirations, but can they be met in a way that keeps them all safe?
All right, Bharti Chaturvedi, Navya Singh, appreciate your time. Dr. K.J. Ramesh and Air Vice Marshal G.P. Sharma, thank you for your time on the show tonight. We are slipping into a short break. Coming up would be, why is Donald Trump issuing one threat after the other? Now he has set a 24-hour deadline. We'll get you details after a short break. Stay with us.
जब मुंबई से वापस कोल्हापुर शिफ्ट हुआ तो सबने कहा कि ड्रीम सिटी को छोड़ रहा है। ड्रीम सिटी, तो मैंने कहा ड्रीम में तो यही गलियां आती हैं। तो जब ये रियलाइज़ हुआ कि कुछ बड़ा करने के लिए बड़े शहर में रहने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, तब लगा कि लाइफ में ग्रो किया। कशित आई, ऐसे बॉय मिलते मुंबई में, चांस ही नहीं।
SIP करो, इन्वेस्ट करो, लाइफ में ग्रो करो।
प्रतिभूति बाजार में निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। निवेश करने से पहले सभी संबंधित दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
फिनिस्टा विंडोज, ब्यूटीफुल एंड ड्यूरेबल डिजाइन्स, इंस्टॉलेशन से मेंटेनेंस की लाइफ लॉन्ग कस्टमर सर्विस। आपके घर में फिनिस्टा नहीं है तो कॉल कीजिए।
Finesta.
Mohit, you are known for your music. All your films, musics stay with us till today. I'm a millennial and those music are kind of music. So whenever we say Mohit Suri film aa raha hai, we know the music will be good, right? It's a given. So you really work hard. But is this always like how you create your music? You need everything in place, the mood, the the lighting, even when the person is in the studio and just singing. And also, how did you select your musicians that this person's voice is perfect for this song?
That's what I think, the amount you give to a song, that's how long it will last, I think. Everyone does the programming, everyone writes the words, everyone makes the thing. But the thing is how much you give, how much of heart you give to the lyrics or to the music or to the melody or to the singing. That's how long the song will last, is what I genuinely feel. If you don't give that love, you're not going to get it back. It's just a simple debit and credit procedure, I think, with the audience. I genuinely feel I don't have any special skill. I don't know any scale or anything else. It's just that I enjoy that process a lot. Give me an evening to just go for a film party or something, I'll skip it. But you give me like a struggling musician to go who has a great tune, some new guys, chill all night with them. I can do that. I can just.
Welcome back. A fresh warning, a familiar target. It is India. Trump, that is Donald Trump, US President, has set a 24-hour deadline. And he has said the tariffs on Indian imports will go up very substantially because India is still buying Russian oil. And the provocation from the US President doesn't stop here. He has gone on to say, and I quote him, India has not been a good trading partner. Donald Trump goes further and he has accused India of fueling the Russian war machine. Sharp, provocative language from the US President is coming at a time when India has issued a statement, keeping it away from rhetoric and pretty diplomatic and straightforward. So what has India said? And I'll ask the producer to put that graphics on the television screens now. Let's take a look. What India has said is that it started importing Russian oil only after the Ukraine conflict began. What India has said is that the US itself actively encouraged India to do so to stabilize global markets. That those pointing fingers at India are themselves doing business with Russia. That the US is still buying Russian minerals, fertilizers and chemicals. And finally, that this targeting of India is unjustified and unreasonable. The gloves are off, clearly. Trump has provoked India again. Will India be responding? Before I bring in the politicians, I have Lisa Curtis joining us. She is the Director for Indo-Pacific Security at the Center for a New American Security and former Deputy Assistant to the President. She was part of the first Trump administration. Ms. Curtis, one wonders what is really Donald Trump's game plan here. This is another threat, and this time he has said that he will increase the tariffs substantially within 24 hours. Would you see this as pressure tactics ahead of the deal so that India agrees to his demands? And how do you read India's response?
Well, I think that President Trump is putting the pressure on. He's raising the stakes, trying to get India to complete a good trade deal. But the problem is, I think, in his approach, and he is really putting India on the spot. I think some of this should have been handled less out of the public eye, more privately. For instance, India does rely on Russian oil imports, but that's only in the last few years. India, before Russia invaded Ukraine, hardly imported any Russian energy at all. So that would have been, I think, something that India could have made a concession on. They could have gradually reduced their dependence on Russian oil. However, now that Trump has put this out in the public realm and, really put India on the spot, I think India's back is against the wall, and Prime Minister Modi will be less likely to be able to make that kind of concession if it looks like he's giving in directly to President Trump. So I think, unfortunately, President Trump's very public criticisms of India, particularly on the Russia issue, is making it more difficult for the two sides to come to an agreement. And it's really starting to escalate to a very serious level.
Okay, so Ms. Curtis, because Trump is linking tariffs on India directly to its oil trade with Russia, is this purely a trade issue? Or are you sensing some kind of signaling coming from the second Trump term, which there might be some kind of recalibration of the US-India strategic equation?
Well, I think that the tensions between India and the United States have been building ever since the aftermath of the India-Pakistan conflict. I think that India was irritated with President Trump publicly taking full responsibility for the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, talking about mediating on Kashmir, and then inviting the Pakistani Chief of Army Staff Field Marshal to the Oval Office. All of this, I think, was very irritating to India. And I think, likewise, President Trump didn't like the fact that India was directly contradicting the idea that he had helped broker the ceasefire, while Pakistan is talking about President Trump deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. So I think he, has become irritated with India. I think Indian officials are irritated with President Trump. And then on top of that, the trade issue, trade talks seemed to be going well a few weeks ago. And all of a sudden, we started hearing that there were problems, probably over India not providing access to its agriculture sector. And so I think that the Russian oil issue has sort of been piled on as, one more issue. But it also does denote President Trump's frustration with Putin. And he's trying to do both. He's trying to put pressure on Putin, but he's also, pressuring India. And I think it's, like I said, it's becoming quite bad in terms of what the damage that could be done to the longer term strategic partnership that both sides have been investing in for the past 2 decades.
That's right. And Donald Trump is continuing to make the most bizarre statements. I mean, look at the statement which has come in only today, that India isn't a good trading partner. Do such sweeping statements then risk undoing years of carefully built bipartisan momentum in US-India ties, especially in certain sectors like the defense and tech cooperation?
I think they could potentially damage the longer-term relationship because he's, directly criticizing India. He's, criticizing India's policies on a broad array of issues, and he's doing it repeatedly over a period of time. So I think this could do damage to Indian trust and confidence in the United States as a strategic partner. And it could become more costly for Prime Minister Modi in terms of his domestic political standing to be able to, reach out to the United States and continue to build the relationship. So I think that, unfortunately, the way President Trump is handling the India partnership is sort of textbook how not to handle the India relationship, criticizing India so publicly, seemingly taking Pakistan's side on the India-Pakistan conflict, not being sensitive to Indian terrorism concerns, the fact that, India was attacked on April 22nd, and then going ahead and inviting, the head of the Pakistan military into the Oval Office, less than a month after that attack. So I think really, unfortunately, even though President Trump had spent a lot of time building relations with India during his first term, he seems to be more emboldened, less concerned with having a good relationship with India this time around.
Okay.
Things are definitely different than the first Trump administration when it comes
Visibly
to
different.
India-US relations.
Visibly different, Ms. Curtis. From your time in the Trump administration, since you were making that comparison, how much of this kind of tough talk is rhetoric versus actual policy intent? And should New Delhi then take these tariff threats at face value?
Well, look, this has always been Trump's negotiating style. Even during the first Trump term, before he would meet with Prime Minister Modi, a few days before, he would start tweeting out about India's high tariffs. He used to complain about the high tariffs on Harley Davidson motorcycles, for example. So he has always used these tactics. But what's different this time around is the combination of the geopolitical issues coming into play, the India-Pakistan issue, and not being sensitive to Indian terrorism concerns. And also, just like I said, the fact that he's repeating these criticisms over and over and willing to escalate the criticisms, and he's having other people in his administration. We've now seen Stephen Miller jump into the chorus of criticizing India. The Treasury Secretary also had made some remarks. So I think this is quite different, and I do think that India should view this as his negotiating tactics. And I think the calmer that Indian officials can be, the better for sort of, both countries in the future of their relationship. But like I said, I think this is going to be difficult for Prime Minister Modi when the opposition is attacking him for, not standing up for Indian interests. So he's going to have to watch the domestic political reaction to these remarks. But you're right that it would be best if Indian officials can view these Trump statements as negotiating tactics and not really a signal about where he wants to take the larger strategic relationship. I don't think he is thinking in strategic ways. I think that if he was thinking strategically about the U.S.-India relationship, he would not be moving in this direction, because India is an important partner of the United States. The U.S. and India do have strategic convergences when it comes to the China threat, and he is risking that long-term strategic partnership. I do think he is risking that by his current tactics.
All right, Lisa Curtis, pleasure having you on the show tonight. Joining me now is Dr. Mukesh Aghi, President and CEO of USISPF. Dr. Aghi, how do you read Donald Trump's remarks calling India, quote unquote, not a good trading partner? US President Donald Trump has gone on to say that he would increase the tariffs against India very substantially over the next 24 hours because of India's continued purchases of Russian oil. Given the strategic and economic ties, is this rhetoric or a serious policy threat in the making?
Well, you have to understand that in the current administration in the White House, rhetoric and policy, they seem to intermingle. And what we are seeing is a lot of policy announcements are being made through social media. So sometimes it's very hard to define is this rhetoric or policy statement. But what we are seeing is that for whatever reason, the president is irked with India. And then on a daily basis, we are seeing certain tweets coming out through social media, basically accusing India of being not a good trading partners or India not being a good friend. And I think that's not helping the environment between the two countries.
But Donald Trump here has linked India's purchase of Russian oils to punitive tariffs. How much of this is about geopolitics rather than trade imbalance? And what signal does this send to Delhi, particularly at a time when trade talks between Delhi and Washington is ongoing?
Well, you have to understand from an India perspective, and that is, it is going to buy oil from countries where you can, from wherever it's cheaper, because it has to maintain its domestic demand, it has to maintain its inflationary issue. But at the same time, I think the tweet coming out from the president says that India is making money. So I think basically the irk which is coming out is more about buying the oil, reprocessing it, and then selling in the open market and making a lot of money. I mean, say Europe is buying much more. Europe bought LNG worth almost $70+ billion last year. China is buying it, but they're buying it for internal consumption rather than buying it to make money itself. And I think that's where the big difference is.
So if we were to, look at a possibility here, if Donald Trump follows through and raises tariffs very substantially, quote unquote, in 24 hours, what sectors of Indian exports to the US, according to you, will be hit the hardest? And then how should India respond?
Well, you have to understand that, at the moment, the announced tariff is 25%, and pharma was exempted. But what I understand is in the new tariff announcement, which is supposed to come out, pharma may be included in that.
Yes.
And India has to do what it has to do to protect its interests, to protect its exporters. And so in the mid to long term, I think India has to look at alternative market, to look at basically how do you basically subsidize the exporter from a tax perspective, from an incentive perspective. And so if US is not the lucrative market for Indian goods, then they'll find other sources itself. So it is a challenging situation. It's a difficult situation. I believe that what we need to do is bring the temperature down between the two countries, especially in social media. And, Trump, we have seen him, when you go into public debate with him on any issue, he does not back down. He just keeps on raising the temperature. And I think it's prudent on part of India to see and explore how to bring the temperature down.
So let me ask you, how do you bring the temperature down here? India's response has been through Ministry of External Affairs in the form of a press release. There are no government official or Prime Minister here or any of the senior ministers who have taken to Twitter or any other social media platforms to respond to US President. There is a great degree of caution on part of India.
No, absolutely. I think India has been very measured. India has explained its position. In fact, the purchase of Russian oil, in fact, was encouraged by the Biden administration to stabilize global prices. And if you move away overnight, India buys 2 million barrels of oil every day, it is going to basically have an inflationary impact on the oil prices all across the world itself. So I think what we have to do is it's not just India basically being, as a government, being cautious. I think when you look at the social media from India, it has been creating more and more noise and focus on insulting the president. I think that's also creeping into the whole thinking within the White House. So I think the objective here is not to say, hey, India, bring the administration, bring the temperature down. I think we have to figure out how do you basically get rest of the social media to basically bring the temperature down and calm things between the two countries.
Okay, Dr. Agi, let me try and sum up this conversation with you with my last question. You work closely with both the governments. What back channel conversations or interventions might be happening right now to manage or diffuse this tariff escalation before it turns into a larger diplomatic standoff?
I think a call between the Prime Minister and the President is important. President respects the Prime Minister. He calls him. He's a good friend of mine. And I think a call will help bring the temperature down. A call will help looking at the tariffs in a much more reasonable manner. You have to understand both Howard Lutnick and Jameson Greer, the USTR chief, had proposed to the president a deal with India. And I think that somehow and somewhere it just went disarray. So I think it's important that leadership basically talk to each other and study the ship rather than going in different direction here.
All right, Dr. Mukesh Agi, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Joining me now is Sujit Kumar, BJP MP, and also Jebby Mathur, who is a member of Parliament of the Congress. Ms. Mathur, don't you think that today and right now, given how there is a rising escalation with the kind of statements that are being made by Donald Trump, the political class in India should be speaking in one voice, because it's about also sending a message that there cannot be multiple readings. It's about the foreign policy, and tariffs and trade in particular is in the interest of the nation.
Maria, as we are discussing about the consequences or the key sectors, how it will be impacted with the 25% tariff hike and the penalties, additional penalties, as we are discussing that, what we hear in the CNBC interview by President Trump is that a 24-hour deadline is being given, and he categorically says that substantially there'll be a more increase on tariff rates. So where is this threat? What is this threat? And how are we responding? Where is our diplomatic channels? Where do we stand? See, with Howdy Modi and with Namaste Trump and Abki Bar Modi, Abki Bar Trump Sarkar and all that. See, what the nation saw was made to look like what a great friend, but and the tone was ये दोस्ती हम नहीं तोड़ेंगे मेरी जीत मेरी गम मेरी तेरी गम was the mood which was portrayed. But now what has happened is clearly dost na raha. Pyar na raha. So it's very clear. See, when we are discussing itself, we are seeing right now. I just saw a flash news saying that there's a ceasefire violation by Pakistan. So the geopolitical politics itself is a threat now with it's not just Pakistan anymore. Pakistan, China, and
since you have talked about that ceasefire violation, in fact, the Indian Army has issued a clarification that there has been no ceasefire violation along the line of control.
Okay, that's fine. I agree, but I just shared the thought as I saw it in the
because
media.
It has just come, so I thought I'll highlight that as well.
No, that's good you clarified. I'm happy that there's no ceasefire violation, but in any case, the geopolitics has changed, and the way, the kind of threat. See, how do we call America a friend anymore? Does India have a friend? Where's the diplomatic channels? Our sectors, key sectors, be it pharmaceuticals, engineering, other businesses, are all affected, will be affected by the 25% tariff hike. And then we see President Trump saying that with a 24 hours deadline, he is going to substantially increase the tariff.
And does India really have a game plan there?
Place for trade. Russia
Kumar,
buying oil from Russia.
The threats from Donald Trump is only increasing with every passing day.
We don't hear from External Affairs Minister. We don't hear. Where are we heading to?
So the point that has been raised by the Congress party of concerns to various sectors is not really illegitimate. They have valid concerns. Okay, Sujit Kumar, if you hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. So my question is that the concerns being raised by Congress party or other leaders in opposition with regards to the impact that this will have, constant threats coming in from Donald Trump, the US president, directly taking to Twitter and saying that there'll be an increase in tariffs. What impact will it have, and how prepared is India?
See, first of all, it's laughable that the Congress party, which actually coined the slogan Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, and the disastrous consequences of that is known to everyone in 1962 and even much before that. So the Congress party has no locus standi to now even comment on this issue. Coming back to what's going on with Mr. Donald Trump's daily tweet, it's actually his hypocrisy and frustration that is on display. India's stand has been principled, pragmatic, and balanced. And let me tell you that, and through you to the entire nation, that the present government led by Prime Minister Modi is thoroughly prepared. Yes, we might have some short-term hiccups. Yes, this has come, as very unjustified, unreasonable from President Trump. But he is known to behave like this, not only with regards to India, but on every issue we see a very, very, dictatorial and unpragmatic behavior. So, coming back to the 25% tariff and the threat of even increasing that further, we are prepared. There will be some short-term hiccups for sure, particularly with regards to our pharma industry and a few other industries. But, we have taken a justified stand in the national interest, in the interest of our economic security, in the interest of our energy security. We have to make energy affordable and accessible to 1.4 billion citizens of India. That is why we had to buy oil from Russia. And as a sovereign nation, we have every right to buy it from wherever it's available at a price which is, beneficial to our national interest. So all we are doing is following our national interest without breaking any international rules. Okay. So the government of the day is extremely seized and focused on this matter. For us, nation first philosophy has always been prominent, and I assure you that our farmers, our entrepreneurs, our MSMEs are the top priority for the government, and their interest is our top priority.
J.B. Mathur, here is the government which has put India's interest first, and that is perhaps one way of reading is coming in the form of repeated, frustration or the statements which is coming in from Donald Trump, because India has refused to give in to the pressure which is coming in from the United States.
Where do we see the strong stand taken by India, Maria? Where do we hear the Prime Minister saying anything? Do we hear the External Affairs Minister saying anything? And my good friend Sujit Kumar, he made a mention that everybody knows about Donald Trump, that he is dictatorial and he will say anything. So does he mean, he has to clarify, does he mean that was Mr. Modi supporting Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar? So knowing well that this dictatorial tendencies of Trump, was he saying about this Namaste Trump and Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar? So assertiveness, the strong leadership is totally absent in as far as India is concerned. And also, see, he was saying about Congress. Congress has taken a strong stand with US. We know how when the 7 fleet was arriving, the Indira Gandhi took a very strong stand and said, if your fleet comes, we are not going to retrieve from our thing. We will go ahead. And very confidently and with strongly we took a stand. Even Rajiv Gandhi had the diplomatic relations to maintain both Russia and US. But where do we see? We don't see any friend for India, whether it's our neighborhood, whether it's our immediate neighbors, whether it's big countries. Where do we see? Where there is a total lack of leadership, strong leadership, strong assertiveness is totally absent, and that is something which is a high concern. He is saying in the interest of India. Who is speaking about interest? We get to hear only Trump saying all these things. Anyway, the reality is 25% tariff rate hike is in place from August 1st. And now we hear there's going to be a substantial rise. What the ministry, MES
quickly respond to all those charges coming in from the Congress party, Sujit Kumar.
I will. It's unfortunate for the nation actually that we have an opposition party, the leading opposition party, Congress party, believes the US version more, believes the Pakistani version more than what our armed forces have to say, what the legitimately elected, democratically elected government of the day has to say. In fact, don't take my words for it. I can give you evidence. The June 2025 edition of Congress Sundays, which is their mouthpiece, on page 22, who have they quoted? They have quoted Friday Times, Maria. Please check it. They have quoted Friday Times to justify and to attack India's foreign policy. Well, you don't believe the armed forces, fine. You don't believe the elected government of the country, fine. At least you could have, gone for some global Western media houses, Washington Post, NYT. You found the Friday Times of Pakistan to justify your stand and to attack the government of the country, of our nation. Well, that is Congress party. Coming back, to what my dear friend JB has just said, that no country stood with us. TRF was mentioned as and was prescribed by the United Nations Security Council. Okay, Pakistan went across the world trying to delete the name of TRF without any success. Almost all the countries have condemned Pahalgam, and when the multi-party delegation went across the world, there was genuine understanding of India's concern.
Okay.
Now coming back to the tariff, yes, this is a temporary hiccup. I myself acknowledge that yes, we will have some hiccups in the short term. Because Donald Trump is
Sujit
totally
Kumar, we have really come to the end of this discussion. So thank you so much for joining us, and J.B. Mathur of the Congress Party, Sujit Kumar there of the BJP. That's all from me on this edition of The Last Word. We are putting out this entire discussion on NDTV.com. Thanks so much for watching.
माय बर्थडे गिफ्ट टू पापा, ये उनके पापा की पहली गाड़ी एक गराज में पड़ी थी दार्जिलिंग में, फिर 3 मैकेनिक, पेंटिंग, पॉलिशिंग। जब इसे फाइनली घर लाया ना, तब लगा लाइफ में ग्रो किया है। बुलाओ।
SIP करो, इन्वेस्ट करो, लाइफ में ग्रो करो।
प्रतिभूति बाजार में निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। निवेश करने से पहले सभी संबंधित दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
फिनिस्टा विंडोज, ब्यूटीफुल एंड ड्यूरेबल डिजाइन्स, इंस्टॉलेशन से मेंटेनेंस की लाइफ लॉन्ग कस्टमर सर्विस। आपके घर में फिनिस्टा नहीं है तो कॉल कीजिए।
Fine, finer, Finesta. Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry, and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts August the 23rd. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा टेलिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा।
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसा हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है?
मैडम एक बात को खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report,
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Left, Right and Center. I'm Vishnu Shom. I'm in the Israeli Kibbutz of Nir Oz. It's about 1.7 kilometers from the Gaza Strip itself, which is directly behind me. And the reason we are here is because this is where the most horrific massacres of October 2023 took place when Hamas terrorists entered Israel. In fact, 140 terrorists entered through this particular gate. And what we've seen over here is 1 in 4 people in this entire area having been butchered. Their executions captured live on Facebook. 85-year-old people taken into the custody of these terrorists. Little children, 8 months old, taken into custody. Some made it back, some were executed, and they still believed that people over here have survived who were kidnapped, and people want them back into their country. A lot of the homes, virtually everyone, was attacked, set on fire. There was an 85-year-old couple which was hiding in a safe room. Because they couldn't get them out, they smoked them out by setting fire to this building. And there are many more such horrific stories that we see across this region. On this episode of Left, Right and Center, we reflect on the horror of what happened over here at a time when Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, says it may be time for Israeli forces to fully occupy Gaza itself. The big question, when will there be an end to the war? When will the hostages return? And as significantly, when will the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, the suffering of countless people over there, come to an end? It takes incredible courage to speak about what happened on the 7th of October 2023. Very few people confront what they went through. Mazal Tazazo is somebody who has survived the attack by terrorists. She was attacked by terrorists. She pretended she was dead, and she's alive now to talk about this situation. Thank you very much, Mazal, for talking to us. You'd come over here to the Nova Festival for fun. With friends and to enjoy music and have a great time. But a few hours later, there was a terrorist who hit you on the back of the head with a gun. How did you survive?
Wow, miracle. I was plain dead. And I have the luck that my hand also hurt, so I was full of blood. I don't know.
And you have a scar in the back of your head as well.
Yeah. Of course, I have in my head and my hand.
In your hand. And Daniel and
Yeah.
Yokai are your friends, and they didn't make it.
They was with me. We was escape together.
Yeah.
We come to the party together. And there was a murder next to me. And it's crazy, like he only was 23, she only was 25, like.
They were friends of yours for a long time?
She's friend of me for a long time, and Yochai was like a brother from for Danielle, like they grown up together.
Yeah.
From same neighborhood and stuff. So, and she was, only love and fun and want to do the world better, like that. Help.
There was also this horrible situation which you were telling us about when they tried to tie your legs.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what happened?
In the moment, I felt someone touch my legs, and I didn't know in that point that this is a ropes, that someone want to kidnap me or something like that. In that point, I felt only someone put something heavy. It felt like a sack. I don't know how to say sack havalim, like a
sack, yeah.
And someone do something with my legs, and I need to play dead like that. Only after I go out from there, I get it that it was ropes. What's happened is it's another terrorist come when he messed with my legs, and I don't know what he said to him in Arabic, but they talk, and he come to check me, and after that they go. You get it?
But this entire ordeal lasted for many hours. How many hours in total?
It was in total 8 hours that I was here.
So from the time that it started to the time that you realized that you would survive, it was 8 hours of hell.
Yeah.
And 8 hours when you didn't know whether you would survive.
You don't know where, you don't know why, you don't know how, you don't know anything. You only hear gunshot, 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 gunshot.
You were telling me that it was like a movie, but it wasn't. It was real.
Was because I saw a lot of war movie, that you hear that that they are fighting. I felt like I'm in the middle of a war, but something that no one did yet, like that. The amount was crazy. I don't know from how they have so many.
And there was one situation when there was a policeman that you saw.
Yeah.
And you thought that it would be safe to sort of be behind the policeman, but you moved away from that area.
Yeah.
And the people around didn't survive, did they?
A lot of people, most of the policemen there was killed, and the policeman that I saw, I trying to find, but I didn't succeed. So I don't know if he's dead or he survived, but I think about him many times. I remember his look, like he was very, how do I say in English? He don't know how to help me, like he was very frustrated. Yeah, and you see in their eyes. So.
Then there was a fire.
Yeah.
How did that happen? They set the trees on fire, or?
Now also you can find, I think, in the media, in the Google photos of the road. They like, you have the road, you have the bushes, the little trees, and
come, let's walk this way. Yeah.
After that you have the films. So they burn from the end of the films to the road, and all the line. So you cannot, the only way that you can run is to the road, but you hear them, that they are on the road.
And the injury that you had, it's a deep gash, and you lost a lot of blood.
I lost a lot of blood.
Yeah, and and I can see that over here, right?
You can see that.
It's
now
right
it's
over
look
here.
good. It was look very bad. It was
and
like
there
that.
Are lots of stitches over there, or? When you did the doctors put a lot of stitches?
They like that.
How did you get to the hospital?
Wow, I get late. Like I get to the safe place in 3.5, something like that. And from there until they took me to the hospital, I think something like 6 p.m.
One final question.
Yeah.
How do you have the courage to speak like this? What gives you that strength? Does the ability to speak out about what happened, is it a way of coping?
My son.
How old is he?
He's 11 years old.
You have one son, 11.
I have one son, 11 years old. And I want to make sure that he gonna live in a safe world. And now we don't live in a safe world because we keep going in the same war. Like the world don't understand that you need to go in Gaza and arrest all the Hamas. The world don't understand that we deal with against a group of monsters. It's not about land, it's not about nothing. Like it's a fact that here in Israel we live together, and I'm like Israeli and Ethiopian girl, you know, like a black woman in Israel, get all the rights. And I have Arab friend that was here like a security guy and saved 200 people.
Yeah.
He go back and forth, save people, a lot of people. And they are Muslim.
Yeah.
And we live together in love and fun. So how do you say about Israel that the people in Gaza live like that because of us, you know? So
Look, thank you. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
And agreeing to speak to us. I realize it's difficult, but for me the big takeaway was your fight to survive was because you had a little child.
Yeah.
You had to live for him.
I have to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To get a full idea of the extent of the horror of what happened on the 7th of October 2023, I'm joined by Ronnie Kaplan. He is with the Israeli Defense Forces, but someone who really knows a lot about the communities over here, including the community in this particular kibbutz, which was the worst impacted as a result of the Hamas terror attack. 1 in 4 people was killed.
Yes.
Or taken hostage, right?
That's right. Actually,
and this is Nir Oz.
That's right. 28% of the people were either killed or kidnapped. 64 people killed here.
Yeah.
We had before the 7th of October 417 people, and 117 were either killed or kidnapped. We're 1.5 kilometers from the Gaza Strip.
Let's walk inside. And this is the house of an 83-year-old man, right?
That's right. He's
what was his name?
Oded Lifshitz, and also his wife Yochebed Lifshitz. They were kidnapped from here, and he's one also of the founders of this kibbutz. He was a journalist in an Israeli newspaper.
So his wife was, and that sound in fact was the sound of artillery that we still heard. So there is some artillery shelling that you can still hear in the distance, but. That's him, and he was unfortunately killed, or he died in custody, right?
He was taken here hostage alive, and he was killed in the Gaza Strip. While his wife, she was 85 years old, she was released. She was released the 14 days.
Is she okay now? I mean,
she's she's more or less okay. But it's important to understand, Vishnu, that the people here were pacifists.
Yeah.
They were people that used to go to take people from the Gaza Strip. They let the people from the Gaza Strip come here and also sleep in their house. And this is the way Hamas paid to them. I mean, Hamas knew that the people living in this kibbutz are people from the left of the Israeli politics, and also they wanted to live together with the Palestinian neighbors. But this is the way they pay them, because the way Hamas is seeing things is that they are the believers, we are the infidels, and they need to, build a caliphate in the ruins of the modern state of Israel.
And this was a piano. He used to play the piano as well, right?
That's right. This is the piano.
And he was a journalist, you mentioned, with Haaretz.
Yeah. And this is television. Yeah. And you can find here with yes. Be careful, watch your head. We have here, for example, the safe room, the shelter. People entered the shelter because they thought it was just a rocket attack, as always. You can see here the bullets, AK-47, it's a Kalashnikov, 1, 2, 3, 4. These kind of shelter are also common rooms here in these houses.
So they were taking shelter over here when the terrorists came into this room and picked them up.
That's right. I mean, they tried to open the shelter to you see, they will have here their beds. They used to sleep here also.
Yeah.
And when they were not able to open the shelter, they started to incinerate the house. They were asphyxiated, went out, and they were kidnapped.
So they were smoked out, basically.
Lot of smoke.
A lot of smoke, and they
yes.
set fire to this entire house. And this is just horrific. And you were telling me, Ronnie, about the other people in this kibbutz. Little children were killed as well. There were crimes on little children as well that we've heard about. Is that something that happened over here?
Yes, for sure. And also some little children were murdered in front of their parents, and parents in front of their little children. For example, this is the kibbutz also of the family Bibas. That family Bibas actually they were kidnapped.
Yeah.
Those a child of 8.5 months,
yeah.
Ariel and Kfir Bibas. And the
a child of 8 months.
8.5 months, yes. He was, and also a child of 4 years old, Ariel. And they were kidnapped to the Gaza Strip. And the Hamas and the Jihad Islamic said that they were murdered by the Israeli forces. But then when they came back to Israel, they were released.
Yeah.
In the autopsy, it was said that they were murdered, strangulated by the hands of the terrorists. And they were their, how do you say?
The heads were broken,
yes.
The necks were broken.
With the neck broken, and also then they manipulate their bodies in order to be seen as people that were in an army attack. This is what happened here.
And a lot of this was broadcast on Facebook, right? Some of these attacks.
Yes, all the attack was broadcast on Facebook. Was very important for them to broadcast everything, because from one side they try to terrorize the Israelis. I mean to put fear in the heart of the Israelis. But from the other side, to the west, to the Western world, let's say, they try to show themselves like the liberators or something like that,
Yeah.
I know that also in India, what is radical Islam terrorism.
No, we face the threat of terrorism, and so this is just a reminder of how bad it can be. But this was one of the worst attacks in human history. 1,200 people were killed.
Yes, and more than 250 that were kidnapped.
What has happened to the families who have survived? Shall we move on?
Well, they went to other places, and
do they ever come back over here?
Yeah, they're coming back. But some of the families want to come back. Some of the families don't want to come back. Yeah. But a lot of people of my generation want to come back and to live here. And our victory will come when when the children will play here in these kind of places and in the parks of the kibbutz, and also the children's should play. The Palestinian children also should play in front of us here in Khan Yunis, that it's 2 kilometers from here.
And you still say that you call for a peace between communities. I mean, Khan Yunis is 1.7 kilometers away from here, yes. Right? Essentially across that barbed wire fence.
Yes.
But you want a situation when the children from here can play with children over there.
Well, when the Israel Defense Forces are fighting with the hope of one day coming to peace. But first of all, we need to dismantle the Hamas in the Gaza Strip and to bring back 50 kidnapped people that are still there in the Gaza Strip. As Hamas is there, there's no peace.
I just wanted you to come with me and to show our viewers. There's a gate a little distance away over here. And this is where the militants, and how many militants were there?
The first wave of militants is 140.
They are 114.
140.
140, yeah. 140.
Yeah.
It's in that gate. Xavier, can you see the gate ahead?
This is
That's
that gate.
Where they entered from, right?
Yeah, this is the first wave. But then we have other waves, and we have, in the peak of the day, 500 terrorists entering into the kibbutz.
No, it's an absolutely horrific situation. Well, there you have it, a look at the situation in this kibbutz. This was it was a failure of the Israeli armed forces, and they say this themselves, the inability to come in over here and eliminate more of the terrorists. But the nature of the massacre itself is something that people over here in this country will never accept, will never get over. But I think there is one strong demand. Those hostages who are there, they must be brought back. Just a few kilometers away from Gaza itself, we've come across this graveyard of vehicles. Remember, 1,500 plus vehicles were destroyed during the October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack. Many of these vehicles, including this ambulance over here, were destroyed by the terrorists who came in from Gaza. There were between 8 and 10 bodies over here. All of these vehicles have, in fact, been collected. And if you walk with me, Xavier, and placed in this entire area, and you can actually get a really good idea of the nature of the attacks themselves. Some of these vehicles include the vehicles which the terrorists used, but others were vehicles which ordinary Israeli citizens had. You can see the gunshot holes all across this vehicle as an example of what exactly took place over here, a gunfight. These were vehicles of ordinary people. As you can see the who this particular vehicle belonged to, that man over there, and it was shot through, automatic gunfire across. And all throughout this region, you can actually see so many vehicles. And I think the point that people over here make is that each vehicle over here has a story to tell. A vehicle belonging to a family, a vehicle belonging to so many people who had no idea of what was coming their way. Communities in this entire region have been completely devastated, and more than 666 days later, the sense of shock has to be seen to be understood. In this graveyard of cars, it's just a part of the process of telling that story. Many of the people who did survive the attacks know somebody who did not. Almost everybody will know who the hostages still in Gaza are. And if you actually take a look at some of the other vehicles over here, you'll actually see some of these were used by the terrorists as well. We'll try and bring you that in a moment from now. But that's a truck which was actually used over there with a gun mounted on it. But this is a sad reality now, one that people across Israel strive to try and get a grip on, to try and understand the extent of the horror which took place on the 7th of October 2023. It's a reality which will not go away from this country. And as we talk today about the possibility, because this is what Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, may be thinking, the possibility of Israel physically occupying all of Gaza, it's because of the impact of this that one needs to understand that Israeli decision. This is by no means to suggest that the humanitarian suffering in Gaza by civilians who have had nothing to do with Hamas isn't true or isn't correct. The humanitarian situation there absolutely critical. But for Israelis, what took place with 1,200 people killed in one of the worst terror incidents in human history is something they will never forget, come what may. Near the Gaza Strip with camera person Xavier Thomas, Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio your future. Ask Profit.
Vanakkam Tamil Nadu.
Well, the battle for Tamil Nadu 2026 is open now.
After Chief Minister Stalin rolls up his sleeves and Vijay steps in as a star challenger.
This is a mass gathering, not for cash. Meanwhile, a former Chief Minister, Edappadi Palaniswamy, begins his fight back.
The big comeback campaign by EPS has well and truly begun.
These are all the ultimate players, and this is going to be the ultimate test.
And you know, that's why it's being said that after Kahuna Pyare, this is the film that has got two superstar debutants who are becoming superstars. But what was this faith that you had on these two that you know that shows on screen?
You know, you don't plan to make a blockbuster. You plan to make a good film. And that's what I think they never let me, you know, they didn't put that pressure on me to live up to. They never gave me a number that we have to hit or a so-called figure that I have to open to. There was, all these trappings were just not there, which normally producers do end up putting that pressure. You know, then you make wrong things. Then you add a song for a shadi song, add a Punjabi song. All these trappings were not there in this film. They were like, just go there and make your film. Do this script. We love this script and make it honestly. And I think the minute that happened, a filmmaker I could just spread my wings and just go out, not worrying about a few. I think when you do that, you get a little more fearless, and then that's what got picked up by people. So I cast appropriate for the film. I didn't cast thinking. I cast what felt right.
You were saying that you are going to say no to him.
Yeah. But that's his fault. Huh? He was now you see, now that we can talk about the film, Krish Kapoor cannot be a timid, sweet boy.
Yes,
sir, how are you, sir?
Last time we spoke.
Yeah, and I was like, what is this guy? He was a sweet boy. And then by the end of the night, I could see the boisterous self, and I could see the Krish Kapoor who could stand on top and say, don't forget this name, it's Krish Kapoor. So I think I was looking for that a bit. I needed a spark of that.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
You know, first, when Sayyara released and we as audience realized, oh my God, what is happening? You know, when did you realize it? Like, it's like, whoa, I didn't expect this, what is happening? Like that wave that hits you.
You know, the first thing that really hit me, I'm telling you, was a month back actually, to be honest, is when Adisa saw the film. And he saw a very loose cut and he decided the release date. But he was always, like me and Akshay were so into making the film, I think, along with Sumanna and all. Sometimes when you're so into it and you know, you don't realize, you don't see it from, and then he saw it from a third person perspective. I mean, he was always super confident about the film. And he had actually had this talk with me about how I've done. And yeah, we all grew up. I was in the 8th grade when I saw Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge and said I want to make.
Cloudburst in Uttarakhand villages have been swept away. Over 50 people have gone missing. Rescue teams are on spot. PM condoles. Amit Shah, Home Minister, speaks to Chief Minister Pushkar Dhami. There's a massive ruckus over Parliament security change. Opposition has said that the voice of opposition is being muzzled. Government has said that only marshals were present in the House. NDTV takes a sneak peek into Bengaluru Yellow Line that is to be launched by the Prime Minister on the 10th of August. Donald Trump doubles down on tariff threat. Donald Trump has set 24-hour deadline for India. Donald Trump says substantial tariffs in the next 24 hours on India.
Presented by Canara Bank. Together we can.
There's bullying and there's blundering and then there's Donald Trump. His latest tariff tantrum on India over the last 48 hours isn't just the familiar strong-arm diplomacy that's made him a terror at negotiating tables around the world. This time he has crossed a line, and I know you can feel it, because in his trademark cocktail of arrogance and ignorance, Trump has launched into India with a kind of public contempt that has stunned not just policymakers and politicians, but the people of this country. And that's where Trump has gone too far, viewer. And the reaction has been swift. For the first time in over 2 decades, the public mood in India has turned cold and hostile towards the United States and at Trump. This is no longer about tariffs or trade, it's personal. The India-US relationship, built painstakingly over 25 years across governments and generations, has just hit a Trump-shaped wall. And in doing so, it has reminded 2 full generations since of Indians about the old distrust, about why this relationship has always been shadowed by history. From Nixon's hostility to Clinton's sanctions to Bush's balancing act during Kargil, Indians have not forgotten. And now even India's Gen Z stand reminded of America's trademark duplicity. Trump may not be the same thing as the United States, but today, it's difficult to distinguish. Trump may think this is business as usual, that he's just doing what he does best, throw a fit, slam the table and wait for the other side to beg for a deal. But India isn't flinching, is it? Because this isn't business. This is about respect and about dignity. This is about India being disrespected in public by a US president who thinks abuse is a form of negotiation. Well, it isn't. And India has just made that painfully clear to Trump. Parliament is united. MPs from across the aisle have condemned Trump's outburst. Apart from Rahul Gandhi's now infamous endorsement of Trump's earlier rant about the economy, a political misstep his party will be praying has faded from memory, India has by and large responded with rare political unity, and that should be an achievement for Trump. The External Affairs Ministry's unusually sharp statement would have been unthinkable just 1 week ago. The Indian Army posted a decades-old newspaper clip on social media reminding the world how America armed Pakistan in the run-up to 1971. Trust me, it was not a coincidence. This is no longer about geopolitics. Trump has displayed open contempt, and for the first time, India has responded with open consequences. And now for the big fact check of Trump. Remember, Trump over the last few days has been spreading this narrative that India is somehow a tariff tyrant, a country that is completely unfriendly to trade and business because of its record high tariffs. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to completely bust that myth with data, not my opinion, with data. India is not the most protectionist economy, and I'm going to prove it to you with some data and figures. The mean tariff from India is 4.6% lower than many other countries, and I will show you where that actually stands. A big portion of imports is duty-free from the United States at this point of time. Trump never mentions that. 0 or low duty on key US exports. Trump does not mention that. Low duties on US oil, coal, pharmaceuticals, as well as machinery. Trump makes no mention of that, even though those are big industries in the United States. India is one of the most open and accessible markets for the United States. Trump never mentions that, and I will prove that with data, because 45% of US exports to India face a tariff of under 5%. Have you ever heard Trump mention that? He never will, for obvious reasons. Steady tariff reduction has been taking place on US exports to India since 1991, and I will show you where those figures actually stand, because US imposes very high tariffs in sensitive sectors. The US under Trump pretends like it has no tariffs. It's India that does all of it. I will show you how wrong Trump is. Over 100% US tariffs on dairy, agriculture, and the automotive sector. Now let's get on to some even more important data, because remember, Trump says that the mean tariff in India makes India absolutely the most unfriendly country to do trade with. Well, take a look at some of America's other big trading partners. India stands at 4.6% mean tariff. The EU itself is at 5%, Vietnam 5.1%, Indonesia 5.7%, and Bangladesh almost double of that at 10.6%. So India is by no means the biggest as far as that is concerned. Now let's show you how America has benefited from lower tariffs in India. Let's go item by item to show you how Trump and previous administrations beyond the narrative have actually benefited. Motorcycles, the previous duty was 50, now it's 40. 50 to 30, it's gone, that's above 1600 cc. Other items as well have benefited from lower tariffs from India. Bourbon whiskey 150% earlier, 100 now. Switches 20 to 10. Flavors and essences have gone down by a factor of 5 from 100% to just 20%. So it's not like tariffs have not been going down. Now, here are the high tariff products in the United States. You will never ever see Trump or his chorus line of congressmen ever talking about these products that are exported from the United States that see these incredibly high tariffs. Look at this. Sour cream, 197%. Tobacco, 183%. Peanut butter, 131%. Rum and tequila, 51%. Whey protein and whey, 39%. Milk and cream, 35%. Cheese, 23%. Leather and footwear, nearly 24%, and auto at 19.28%. Some of the highest tariffs in the world, courtesy Trump's America. And finally, agri-tariffs. Remember, every country in the world protects its agriculture, but Trump makes it look like India is unique in protecting its agricultural industry. Just take a look at some of these figures to give you a sense of it. And these I've chosen countries that have agricultural economies. Switzerland 28.5%, Norway 31.1%, 23.5% on Iceland, Korea is 57%, and India is 39%. So these are the facts that Trump will never tell you. This is the narrative, very much part of the muscle flexing to try and paint India, to defame India as a tariff tyrant. Well, the numbers speak for themselves. So Donald Trump has perhaps learnt in the last 24 hours that this is not an India that is willing to simply put aside his distasteful, abusive and disrespectful tweets drenched in arrogance and contempt as just signature Trump, an unpredictable politician, and this is his style in how to get the deal, and this is muscle flexing and psychological mind games, because India feels disrespected. And what Trump has actually managed to do, which few have managed to do, at least in the last 25 years, is unite India in a very strange way. We're seeing members of parliament across party lines talk against Trump. We're seeing unity in the political system. You're even seeing the Indian army, which usually stays the hell out of all these things, tweeting sort of an oblique pot shot aimed at the United States and Trump, reminding an entire generation of how Trump's current behavior is an echo of why India has always distrusted the United States, the history of distrust that actually exists. Let's see what some of India's best commentators think about this. Tehseen Poonawala is a political analyst, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, political analyst, senior fellow of IPCS, both good friends, both very, very vocal commentators on Trump, American affairs and everything in between. Tehseen, I'll kick it off with you. Trump has managed to do something quite difficult. The India-US relationship is seen overwhelmingly positively by most Indians. It's a relationship and a friendship that has been on the rise, no matter which metric you measure it by. In the last 48 hours, the kind of damage that has been done and the way it has, spread far and wide, obviously through social media as well, the mood has turned sour. It looks like Trump has completely misread India here.
Shiv, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. Good evening to you, to all your NDTV viewers, and to Abhijit. I would like to thank President Trump because President Trump has done something that I think no one else has managed to do. Today, we don't speak as a Congress supporter or a BJP supporter, a Hindi speaker or a non-Hindi speaker, as a man or woman, as a North Indian or South Indian. We speak simply as Indians and children of Ma Bharati. And what President Trump has managed to do is sour and leave a bad taste in 1.4 billion mouths. This isn't about United States of America, and therefore I really appreciate your starting remarks because this is President Trump throwing a tantrum with India. And you know what? Donald is delusional. Let me put this in black and white. You're right, Indian and American relationships, because we share same values, we have certain shared ideas and goals, it was on the rise right from whether it's Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, Manmohan Singh ji, or Prime Minister Modi. They've all worked towards enhancing cooperation between these two nations. But let's look at the logic of what President Trump is saying. He criticizes India for being a member of BRICS, for example. But India being a member of BRICS is an advantage to Western democracies. He criticizes India for buying oil from Russia, when the United States of America actually wanted India to buy oil so that the global prices remain stable. President Trump is not just harming India, he's harming the United States of America. Today, one of the reasons that the United States of America is such a superpower in a unipolar world is because talent from across the world goes to the United States of America and contributes to the United States of America. And this juvenile behavior of this trade wars, which is not steeped in economy, but in kindergarten mathematics, gone wrong.
And it's dangerous, Tehseen, because you've got an entire sort of chorus line of cheerleading congressmen and congresswomen on the back of what Trump said about India, saying cancel H-1B, stop the H-1B visa system, make India pay, and all these belligerent things, which are very, very damaging and has had a chilling effect on relations. Abhijit, do you think this is all, smoke and mirrors, signature Trump, we don't need to overreact, but the Indian system is reacting. That MEA statement that came out yesterday, the Indian Army's tweet today, at a smaller level, the general mood in the system as well, shows that there are consequences to what Trump said.
There are always consequences to what Trump says. The thing is, our reaction's been very proportionate to the provocation. This man feeds off PR. His oxygen is PR. You're denying him that oxygen. What he really wanted was a call from Modi as a supplicant so he could say, they came begging, Girgidaye hui aaye. I don't know what the exact English translation of Girgidaye ke aaye is, but something like that, which he could then pass off as a major victory. See, we've denied him that victory, number one. Number two, just remember about 2 months back, the way in which Zelensky was humiliated, not just once, but repeatedly. And today he's willing to burn his relations with India for the sake of that same Zelensky. I think we might be looking at, the advanced onset of senility and the kind of cognitive decline sometimes goes with Trump, because if you read his book, The Art of the Deal, this seems to be against his own Art of the Deal, the hypothesis he puts out in The Art of the Deal, that you have to understand what the bigger prize is and be willing to sacrifice the smaller prize for it. So congratulations to him. Now, if we go by this need to avoid short-term pain, we would have never tested our nuclear weapons in 1998. We understood there was going to be short-term pain. We understood that would take about a year or so to overcome that short-term pain. We absorbed that short-term pain. And we did what we did, and finally we've been accepted for it. Why do we think that, this time, India today in 2025 is not the India of 1998-99. Remember, in 99, we had to send SOSs out for emergency weapons and things like that. This time, we didn't even have to do that. Correct. We're a much stronger economy. We can take the pain. I really wish, all the Rudalis would really stop being so Rudali in public. This is totally manageable. Look, the MEA is calm. The Ministry of Finance is calm. Nobody out here is panicking. Nobody is even taking this seriously.
Very true,
Very good reason.
Tehseen, the political unity that we've talked about, and I'll come to some of the Rudalis and things that Abhijit was referring to right now. But, apart from Rahul Gandhi, who kind of embarrassingly jumped on what Trump said about the dead economy, I think we can safely say that the politicians have kind of come together. You've seen Manish Tiwari, you've seen Tharoor, you've seen the others pretty much speak in one voice as far as Trump is concerned. And that is perhaps the crown jewel this week of what Trump has achieved. Parliament speaking in one voice as far as Trump is concerned.
Because anyone who's mature understands we don't have a US problem. We have a Trump problem. The two are distinctively distinct. And Trump may get his kicks and his kinks by being called daddy. But India is a civilization that is 5,000 years ago. India existed, Bharat existed when there wasn't a United States of America, and India will continue to exist in the future. I don't disregard what President Trump is doing. Of course he will hurt us in the short term. Abhijit is bang on. We export about $87 billion. That would hurt us. There would be some short-term pain. But the fact is we have a spine. And we've stood up. We've stood up every single time since 47 when we had challenges. And we will continue to stand up. We will not go about digging for crypto, engaging people convicted in the United States of America for conning fellow Americans in crypto scams and putting them on the cryptocurrency, crypto boards of failed nations that export terrorism. And I hope President Trump realizes that that 3 or 4 people who've worked with his family can be engaged by a hostile nation and enemy nation that carried out 9/11 in the United States of America to mine his cryptocurrencies. But India will continue to survive and thrive. And just for common sense, why would India want a BRICS currency? India doesn't even want a BRICS currency. Correct. The man is not even talking sense. I can understand if he's a legitimate concern. Even the concern is not legitimate. India would not want a BRICS currency. So what is his problem?
Very true. You know, Abhijit, one of the things we hear very often in this conversation is, at least in the last 24 hours, is, you know, India has spoken in the only language that a bully understands. But the other question, of course, is how much further can this actually go? Because, you know, some very contemptuous things have been said. You know, people are still in shock that Trump could have said these things out in public. Yes, there is one view that, okay, this is the art of the deal. This is how he negotiates. This is his entire brand of, muscle flexing before arriving at the kind of deal he wants. But how much further down the road can India go on this particular track with Trump?
Look, we don't have to go very far down the track, because remember, he is violating every principle he writes about in The Art of the Deal. You never escalate to the point where de-escalation becomes impossible. He's just making it impossible for himself to start de-escalating on this. And at some point, the stress in the economy will show. In that sense, I'm very, very glad when the US Deputy Chief of Staff went on some news channel yesterday and said, oh, they're immigration cheaters, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, these two people, they are known to be, you know, the sort of pivot core, if you want to call it that, of the MAGA crowd, who then put out the talking points. Now, when they talk about H-1B, excellent. You know, what I say is, if you're willing to take short-term pain, for all green cards and H-1Bs, tell them if they don't return to India within a month, you will cancel their passports and they will be considered stateless. What happens to America then? Are you willing to absorb that pain? And what happens to American tech companies then? What happens to the green card then? Because then America's choice will be, do you retain that workforce, in which case you have to promise them permanent citizenship anyway. Imagine how that rebounds back on the Marjorie Taylor Greene crowd. Right. There are many, many things we can do. I think what we're trying to do right now is act like a mature, responsible power. We're not going to respond to every dog on the street barking. We are not going to go down the path of horizontal escalation. We're going to stick to vertical escalation. And we're going to treat him with the contempt he deserves. You know, agar gali ka kutta bhaunk raha hai, you don't take a brick and throw it at it. You just let the dog bark, because that is what dogs do.
But one of the bricks that was thrown today, and you know, everyone saw it, I spotted it in the morning. I actually thought it was fake until I realized it was real. It was a tweet from the Indian Army's Eastern Command. I was very impressed because, you know, the Army has a wonderful social media kind of exercise of doing these throwbacks. You know, this day, that year, this day in history, especially when it comes to war, etc. And to do with the 1971 war, they had a newspaper clipping today as a tweet saying this day, that year. And it was about how the US has armed and funded Pakistan to the extent of billions of dollars in the run-up to the 1971 war. Now, General Shukla is with us, a very well-known commentator on all of these strategic affairs. So I want to get his view. General Shukla, obviously this Indian Army tweet was not a coincidence. There's a huge context in which this tweet happened. What did you think? Part of the Indian response to Trump? Definitely some messaging going on here.
You know, Shiv, there may be a context, but I would just like to, labor on this point which Tehseen raised. And I think that is central to the challenge before us. He said, is this a Trump challenge or a wider American problem?
Yeah.
So just 3 weeks back, I had gone along with Carnegie to Washington. And there everybody was assuring us, state, defense, American side, our embassy, that, the mercurial nature of Trump will have no impact on our relationship. And everything under the external mercuriality, if that is a word, was absolutely right. And look what happens.
Yeah.
So therefore, I would urge the, Indian strategic commentariat to look at this larger problem. And what is this larger problem in my view? This is a challenge before Indian statecraft of how does this aspiring Vishwabandhu navigate its rise through this contest between a declining hegemon and a rising challenger. Now, see, the wider geopolitics must be taken into account. Why do I say the Americans are a declining hegemon? If you take the percentage of global GDP in PPP terms, which is actually a measure of strategic capacities, the Chinese beat the Americans today 19-16.
Yeah.
By 2035, it will be 24-14. As glaring as that. The Americans have concluded that they cannot deter USA in Taiwan, and they are not willing to fight a nuclear war, which means what? I think the Americans have decided to walk back from Asia. It's not only Trump, it's the wider MAGA camp, may even be the foreign policy establishment. Which means what? They don't need India to balance China.
Yeah.
And so we are not so important in their strategic calculus. So what do we need to do? I think we need to revisit the metrics of our strategic autonomy.
What does that mean? What does that mean, General?
I'll just tell you. I'll tell you, in my view, what it means, and then we'll see what Tehseen and Abhijit think about it.
Yeah.
What that means is this. If you take Sindoor, it was not merely about platforms. It was the wraparound technologies around those platforms. So EW, cyberspace, just take space, how it is becoming so material. Unless you have offensive ISR capacities like Israel has, we did well in Sindoor, but we were relatively blunt. And all these capacities in these domains, where do we get them from? The Russians don't have these kind of high-end capacities.
Yeah.
Their current plight means they can't even offer them to us. So America seems the only option, or at least till some time back, seemed the only option.
Yes.
But Indus, X and Trust are done. So we need to revisit the metrics of our strategic autonomy. And one more point I'd like to make, which I think Harsh Gupta was making on your show the other day. It's a very material point. Unless we increase our defense budgets, build capacities internally, we will always be subject to this, exploitation by the faraway hegemon. The near hegemon is already a problem.
Let me get Tehseen and Abhijit on that. Abhijit, to you first. Autonomy. Focus on that. That's the larger message, no matter which way you look at it. And this is an opportunity to revisit, recalibrate, and refocus.
This autonomy message should have been drilled into us even in 1998 when sanctions were imposed.
I agree.
The issue is, we tend to treat defense as some kind of a silo. Remember, defense, every sector of your economy or government is in fact a complex reflection of how your society is. You cannot get autonomous till you start investing in education. You cannot get autonomous till you remove all the, the choking regulations that Indian industry faces. To this day, in fact, it's become worse with the sort of, powers that are the discretionary powers given to babus and things like that. For example, when Israeli companies were ordered out of China, the Israelis ordered them out of China. There were about 72 of them. All of them were ordered to set up in India. Not one of them set up in India because of the hurdles that they face. Right. And that was over. This is since 2023 we're talking about. This is not an old story, by the way. So, we have to take that seriously because we will face these hiccups over and over again. I'm sorry, but we don't seem to be taking the long-term strategic vision terribly seriously.
No, I agree with you because, my fear also is, and I'm sorry to oversimplify this, But tomorrow, if Trump says something nice and cordial and warm with a lot of camaraderie towards Modi and India, all of this will be forgotten, and then we won't be talking about refocusing on strategic autonomy anymore. Quick, Abhijit, and then I'll end with Tehseen.
Sorry, Tehseen, to cut into your time.
Please.
Let me just give you a very simple example if it's tough for our viewers. Take, for example, in India, cars are taxed based on engine power. Right? As opposed to Japan, where they're taxed on size. That is why you have these mini Japanese cars like the Jimnys and Daihatsus and things like that. Now, the problem with taxing based on power is your industry never wants to develop powerful engines, which is why you have not been able to develop a self-sufficient tank engine at the moment. Right? It is simple things like this that our policymakers need to understand. That defense industry and the general public industry are very, very crucially linked at the hip. Defense never provide you with the quantity and bulk that private industry can, that the public market can.
Tehseen,
I want to come in 1 minute.
I'll give you the last word, General Shukla. I'll just get a final word from Tehseen first. Yeah, Tehseen, go ahead.
Yes.
Do you think we can navigate Trump? This is just a temporary speed bump, or it's an opportunity we cannot miss? Tehseen.
First of all, General Shukla, thank you for your services. It's because of people like you that we are free and independent. So thank you, sir, for your services to the nation.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
Two issues. Every crisis brings an opportunity. So you're right, Shiv. Tomorrow, Trump will suddenly have a Bonhomie and, long lost bros, and we'll be like singing praises of Trump and embarrassing ourselves. Look at this as an opportunity to develop. I won't take too much time. I'll give it to General Shukla. He joined us late. But listen, here's what we need to do. Hey, I have a separate ministry of AI and quantum. General Shukla is right. Your next battle is going to be in the space. We need to develop. One of the reasons China is restrained with us is because India has commendable space technology right now. But we need to develop that further. I myself am in various startups, and it's very sad. Abhijit is right. Babudam forced me to move. We are trying to build a quantum computer cooling system. We had to move to Dubai. Because of Babudam. Only Babudam. So unless we don't get risk, we make our defense expenditure easier. We allow and encourage entrepreneurship and innovation. We will not be the first world superpower that we aspire to be and that Indians deserve. So we should not be dependent on any countries. Look at this bump as an opportunity to be self-reliant in the true sense and have a 50 to 500 year vision.
60 seconds to you, General Shukla. Last word to you. A prescription.
Very quickly. Just to underline 3 points which Abhijit and Tehseen both made. One is when we need innovation like never before, regulation is coming back. And I've been screaming about this from rooftops. Hopefully some, think some good stuff will happen. See, just last week, US Defense Secretary Hexer signed an order operationalizing the DET 201. What is it? CEOs of 4 big tech companies, Palantir, Scale AI, I think Meta, have been inducted as lieutenant colonels into the US Army to drive innovation. They say we want high-tech expertise within the Army. This point that Abhijit was making, very quickly I want to make this point, the relationship between military industry and civil industry. 2002, Chinese civilian industrial capacities were half of that of the USA. By 2022, they become twice. In consequence, on American admission today, the Chinese military industrial complex is 5 to 6 times more efficient than USA. The Americans don't have 7 days of missiles for a Taiwan contingency. The Chinese are producing 10,000 cruise missiles a week. So I wish we could, deepen those debates. What Tehseen is saying, what Abhijit is saying is so right. We have to really fire this Atmanirbharta and defense with innovation, energy, and enterprise, or we will just not get, this geopolitics right between China, USA, and all that's going around us. It's such a humongous challenge.
And stop treating entrepreneurs as enemies of the nation. Entrepreneurs build a nation. Please build a nation. Tax reforms, GST reforms.
This is incredible. A conversation about geopolitics has brought out layers that I didn't think it was going to bring out. And that's one of the reasons why you 3 brilliant gentlemen were brought on this show. Incredible. I have a prescription in front of me. Anyone who watches this show is going to not only be able to navigate this complex, shape-shifting story with an unpredictable, whimsical, so-called most powerful man in the world, but this incredible opportunity that lies in front of us for India with actionable points, things that we can actually do, not some nebulous, philosophical, oh, we must come together, etc. Real things we can actually do. Incredible. I hope India really seizes this opportunity. Thank you very much, Abhijit, Chanel Shukla, and Tehseen, as always, for being with me here on India Matters.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Mohit, you are known for your music. All your films, musics stay with us till today. I'm a millennial and those music are kind of music. So whenever we say Mohit Suri film aa raha hai, we know the music will be good, right? It's a given. So you really work hard. But is this always like how you create your music? You need everything in place, the mood, the lighting, even when the person is in the studio and just singing. And also, how did you select your musicians that this person's voice is perfect for this song?
That's what I think, the amount you give to a song, that's how long it will last, I think. Everyone does the programming, everyone writes the words, everyone makes the thing. But the thing is how much you give, how much of heart you give to the lyrics or to the music or to the melody or to the singing. That's how long the song will last, is what I genuinely feel. If you don't give that love, you're not going to get it back. It's just a simple debit and credit procedure, I think, with the audience. I genuinely feel I don't have any special skill. I don't know any scale or anything else. It's just that I enjoy that process a lot. Give me an evening to just go for a film party or something, I'll skip it. But you give me like a struggling musician to go who has a great tune, some new guys, chill all night with them. I can do that. I can just sit there, make music and stuff like that. We just did that recently. Fahim came down. He just surprised us, and we met in my Bandra office, and Han was there, Aneet was there, and he made me hear his other songs and stuff like that. But it was it's so much fun, because I just think making music, film, you still get to see something.